you hear? Oh, wait. Harold. Harold, can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, very good. This muting and unmuting people is not as easy as it looks because everybody's jumping around like crazy on my screen right now. So everybody stop jumping around.
You can put a list on the side of participants.
Yeah, no, I got that. Well, my list is, it jumps and flexes and does all sorts of different things.
I wish you could like. Hello.
You
All
brave
right,
souls.
Tracy, everybody can hear you, just so that you know.
Really?
Hey, George, how you doing? It's easy to keep.
Hey, everybody.
Would you like a tuna? How are you? Good, Rodney. How are you? Fantastic. Everybody's on. Look at this. Yeah, 20. The Brady Bunch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Brady Bunch. Or Celebrity Square, is that what that is? Hollywood Square.
Hollywood Square, yeah.
You guys are old.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we're ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, I'll give it another half a minute if everybody's here. Tracy, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, we will now call to order the meeting of the Winter City Council on Tuesday, April 30 p.m. Tracy, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Anderson,
Yes, here.
Councilmember Lauren,
Raise your hand.
Unmute, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm going to my list, I'm almost there. There it is. Okay.
okay, Councilmember Lauren,
Here.
Councilmember New,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Callen,
Here.
Mayor Biassi.
Here. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Calvin, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next, approval of the agenda.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, there are no changes to the agenda.
Move to approve. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nothing. Unanimously. Next, we're gonna have the city manager. He's gonna go through and read the instructions of how we can participate in our meeting.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, tonight we have about 21 people online, a lot of staff and some folks from the public. For anybody who is watching or observing this online and they want to participate in the meeting through our YouTube channel, if they have any comments, they can send those to tracy.jensen@cityofwinters.org, and Tracy will read up to 240 words that will come in. If you're on this through Zoom, one thing that we've done, we've muted everybody except for the council and a couple of staff folks. And if you wish to make a comment on an item, you'll go to yourself and you'll put the raise hand button as things come up. I'm about ready to put the entire council agenda up. If you're watching or if you are on the phone regarding this and you wish to speak, please press *9 and that will tag that you want to make a comment. It'll put some type of insignia next to the phone number. And then finally, if anybody is watching or listening to the live stream, wants to make a comment, again, submit those via email to tracy.jensen@cityofwinters.org, and we will make every effort to do this. The total disclaimer, really don't know what we're doing here. We're going to try our best, and we will get through this thing. So anyway, back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, next we have council and staff comments. Councilmember Lauren first. Please. Come on, we gotta get you unmuted first, Jesse.
March 31st, I listened to or followed the Board of Supervisors meeting for Yolo County, followed by a webinar on the CARES Act through the League of California Cities. On April 1st, I attended a board meeting for the League of California Cities, and we did it through Zoom. So it was really nice to see everybody's faces. On April 2nd, I attended the transportation policy meeting through the League. And then on April 3rd, I attended the environmental policy meeting on the League. On April 6th, I did the Zoom review of tonight's agenda with City Manager John Donlevy. And today I did a brief interview on KDRT on how Winters is holding up. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes, a couple of meetings that normally would be held, and such as the Air Quality Management District and the Lower Pew Creek Coordinating Committee. Both those monthly meetings have been canceled and put off till the virus issues are resolved. That's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember New.
On April 2nd, a Zoom meeting with land use and natural resources to SACOG, and it turned out that people didn't want to talk too much, so it was a short meeting, but we got our work done. And then this morning I met with city manager with a Zoom meeting, but talked about tonight's agenda. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellen.
Yes.
Yes.
On
So,
the 20th, 27th,
27th,
and today,
3rd,
I
and
assisted
today,
with the food
I
delivery
assisted with the
for
food
seniors,
deliveries for the seniors.
for Yellow Food Bank at the Morgan Street Apartments. And on the 25th,
And on the
I
25th,
had a
I had a
teleconference meeting
meeting
for the BC
for the BC
subcommittee. That's
subcommittee.
all I have.
That's all I have.
Thank you. And I also watched the supervisor meeting on the 1st of March on the Zoom meeting. On the 3rd of April, my wife and I delivered food for the food bank here in Winters. I met with the city manager via Zoom to go over the agenda. And this afternoon, we delivered more food to residents here in Winters for the food bank. So thank you to everyone for your service. I know these are challenging times. A lot of meetings are being held either online or not at all. So thank you. I want to say a shout out also to the Yolo Food Bank for all that they're doing to keep people fed, people who can't get out to get their own food or can't afford to. They're not working for my food. The Yolo Food Bank is doing a great job providing for all those. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have public comments. Anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody out there that would like to comment on something not on the agenda? Tina Loudon has her hand raised. If we could unmute Tina, please. Tina, we can't hear you yet. Hold on.
I'll be right there. Let me get to the Unmuting, I'll find Tina, there's Tina, and Tina, you are on.
I am on. Tina Lau, 320 Neiman Street. I would like to address the wetlands that's across the street from Rominger School. There's been an orange fence, construction fence, that has been destroyed around this wetlands. It is trashed. Speaking of trash, there is litter, debris from the construction site and from others. I would like to know who's responsible for this eyesore, this construction, fence.
John, I'll let you address that if you can.
Yeah, no, we'll go take a look at the fence. I think they, technically the area doesn't need to be fenced off. I think they've just put it up as construction fencing, as they've done their project. So we'll talk to the contractors that are out there on the thing, and if there's trash or something, and then we'll tell them to go pick it up.
There's a lot of trash from the construction site, John. Thank you very much.
Tina, anything else?
Oh, just to mention that the Census 2020 has been extended to August the 14th, in case anybody has not heard about that. So John, maybe we can put that on the website for the city.
Okay, thank you, Tina. I think we've done, okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Is there anybody else out there with a hand raised?
Nope.
Okay. Not hearing from anyone, so I'm gonna move on to the consent calendar.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, a number of items, maybe if I go to the right. A, B, and C are minutes from the executive session on March 13th, minutes of the council meeting on March 17th, and the minutes of the special city council meeting, which was held on March 24th. Item D is a resolution basically to implement a public improvement agreement with Crown Communities. This is for the phase 2 of Calacanis Estates, also known as the Heartland subdivision. Public improvement agreements deal with water, sewer, storm drains, curbs, gutters, sidewalk, and eventually any landscaping which is included in the project. If you go out there right now, they've actually got quite a bit of it done. This will go all the way through eventually the landscaping that goes in. So this is just a public improvement agreement for that second phase. Item E is the acceptance for the wastewater influent screen project. For the most part, the project's done. I will tell you from city staff standpoint, we're pretty satisfied with it. This is a 2-phase project, which this is the structure and all the bones and piping that go in. The second part are all the mechanics. That's about a $1.2 million project that for phase 2 that we do not have a timeline on yet. Item F is a contract for our SB1 street rehab projects. Today, the lowest qualified bidder that came in is Vintage Paving from Winters, California. We will go through, vet them, make sure that they indeed meet the requirements. The staff is recommending that the council authorize the city manager to the lowest qualified bidder, and that would be Vintage Paving from Winters. Item G is a consultant services, an amendment to the consultant services agreement for design services for the city First Street parking lot and the new alley improvements. The total change that came in was $21,000. The engineering team went through, vetted it, and the amount that we're recommending on the amendment is $11,000. The balance will move to other responsible parties. Item H is the third-party plan check agreement with Bureau Veritas. This is just the fee schedule that is paid when people have various types of plan check or outside services needed from the third party. In order for this to go into effect, council needs to accept the fee schedule. Which has been filed against the city, and staff is recommending that the council deny the claim, and it'll go off to our authority for review. And that is the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions on the consent calendar? No questions? John, can you unmute the council members?
Yeah, they should really be, I think the other, getting some feedback from Wade. I think it's got to be coming from the TV set. So let me.
The microphone is probably in there where you're recording the.
Yeah. Councilman Warren. There's unmuted. Councilmember New. And we'll just. No, I think we're going to pick up the Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, we're just going to have to go for it. We'll just get the feedback.
Okay, are there any?
The consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not your
The chair, Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Anderson.
on item G, have a location conflict.
Okay, so we will put down Member Anderson as a conflict on item G on the consent calendar due to conflict. Mayor White. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Ethan, do we need to vote on that again with that change by Councilmember Anderson?
Muting. Okay, go ahead. Ethan?
No, I think you needed to clarify that you didn't vote on that item.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
And all right, hey, Dave, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think we can. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm here.
Okay,
So the item before you, Mayor and Council, is an amendment of the Stone Store tentative map. Are you hearing me okay?
yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. And so, what they're asking to do is take 7 of the corner lots and subdivide them into duplex lots, which would result in a net increase of 7 lots over what was originally approved in the tentative map back in 2015. And so because it's a significant amendment, it had to come back to the process of the Planning Commission and the City Council. Their purpose of doing so is because they found that the duplex lots are in high demand and they would like to provide more of them than originally anticipated. The only issue with this particular application is it triggers the need for 1 more affordable unit. And we'll have to have discussions with staff as to how that affordable unit will be provided. The Planning Commission considered this at their February 25th meeting, and they recommended approval. I hope you can see the map. You can see now better where the new lots are that are being added. The ones that are already approved are in purple. The one that's been built is in light green. And then the ones that are cross-hatched in red were originally approved for duplex lots if they went to the maximum. And they've since deleted those and gone with other locations. So they'll still be under the total number of lots that the development agreement, allows for. But again, they're more than what the, tentative map that you approved 2015 would permit. So with all the other conditions would be still in effect. Again, just the one condition having to do with needing to provide, one more affordable unit could be done as a moderate unit, which is what the current duplex is doing, or it could be an in-lieu fee for a very little unit. And then again, that discussion needs to take place. Other than that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the council?
No question.
I think Councilmember Lauren had her hand up.
Yeah, let me get to it, I'm sorry.
Well,
Okay.
first I wanted to, thank, Commissioner Contreras for bringing up the question of whether or not we would have to have, one more affordable unit. I thought that was very wise of him to have asked that. And, I had a question about the past. It says that there were, 413 lots, 395 single-family lots, and 18 duplex lots. And that was in 2006, and then in 2015, it went to 404 lots, 365 single-family units, and 9 duplex lots, and then now we're moving it back up to 16 duplex lots. Is that the maximum amount of duplex lots that we can have for this subdivision?
So they could, have 2 more to get up to the 413, which they may at some future date, do. I suppose if you wanted to avoid bringing this back, you could add a condition that says that staff has the authority to go up to the maximum, which is 413, without necessarily having to bring this back the second time. But right now, they're only asking for 411 total.
I would love to add that friendly amendment depending on how council feels.
It would, just so you know, adding the 2 more units would not trigger the need for a second additional affordable unit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there other questions from the council before we open the public hearing? I have a question, Dave. Do you know if these were the single story, two story? Because I know some of what they were gonna do, I believe one side was single story, one side was.
The other side is almost completely 2 stories. So you have a little bit less massing than you would if it was a true 2 story for both.
Yeah, I think that to make them more affordable by design, single stories, a little bit smaller, probably more affordable.
Yes.
And it gives them a little more distinction, so that when you see them in the field, they don't look all like one big giant house.
Yeah, I've seen one house that they built, and I like that concept. Okay, other questions on council before I open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I will open the public hearing at 6:53. Is there anybody out there in the public that would like to comment? Kate Laddish has their hand up. We'll get you unmuted there just. Hey, Kate, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Bianchi. I spoke in front of the Planning Commission in favor of increasing the diversity of the housing stock by going with staff recommendation to have some of these more as duplexes. And I appreciate that the affordable by design housing is integrated in with the rest of the community in this situation. And one of the questions, I think it probably dovetails with the mayor's point right now, in terms of the single story versus 2 story, that I would encourage us whenever possible to have housing units that are both visitable and livable. And so if there's a way that the units that are affordable by design could have a bedroom downstairs rather than just upstairs, as I think the 2 story units in this design line have, that would be terrific, because otherwise if we only have units where the bedrooms are upstairs in the affordable by design units, it makes it so that people who have access and functional needs live in these housing units. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to comment tonight on this item? Hey, I'm not hearing anybody. I don't think anybody's got that. Thank you, Tina. Okay, Tina Loudon, please, go ahead.
I just want to know about the single story unit. Will they be wheelchair accessible and walk-through accessible, and what about the bathrooms?
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, I can
Can
hear
you still hear?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, Tina, how the units are designed. I can find out and get back to you and Kate if you'd like, but I honestly don't know.
It would be nice for the seniors or to let us know to the commission also, so we could understand these units.
When you,
It's the same units that they have already built, so I'd have to check those plans and talk to the building official.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Tina, are you referring to the Senior Commission on Aging? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Didn't throw the title out yet.
Thank you. Hey, I don't see any other hands up. Any other further public comments? Okay, seeing nothing, I will close the public hearing at 6:56. More discussion from council? Yes. Pro Tem Brown.
I can talk without going too crazy. Yeah, I'm in favor of the duplex lots.
I'm in favor of the duplex lots.
I'm also in favor of allowing
I'm
staff
also
to
in favor of
increase that
allowing
number
staff
if they
to
desire.
increase that number if they desire.
Thank you. And any other comments from council? I mean, I like the idea. I like the idea. I think it does well. I think it will help to diversify our housing. Make sure it's making a good adjustment on it. Okay, if there's no more comments or questions, then I will open it up for a motion. Lauren, you got a hand up. Okay, Councilmember Lauren.
I think I'm unmuted. All right. I would like to move to approve resolution 2020-19 with a friendly amendment to allow the builder to go up to 2 more, and to also ask for the builder to take into consideration accessibility. Anyway, approving the resolution of the council of the city of Winters for the amended tentative subdivision map for the Stones Throw subdivision.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. We had some comment there from somebody's pet, and I don't know if they're in favor or opposition, but let their voice be heard, so that's good. Thank you, everyone. All right, next item. Introduction of ordinance 2020-01, an ordinance of the city of Winters for various zoning text amendments to Title 17.
Can you hear me, Mayor? Can you hear me again?
Yes, I can hear.
So we started this process late last year. We tried to get this adopted before the first of the year, but for various reasons, we were unable to. So by default, on January 1st, the state laws pertaining to ADUs took over, and we were sort of under their direction. We now have an ordinance that's been taken to the Planning Commission that has all of the updates that are required under the new legislation that were passed in 2019. There's key bullet points shown in your staff report on page 2 that indicate what the changes are. Pretty much we followed the boilerplate that many other cities use. We didn't try to reinvent the wheel if it wasn't needed. The only thing that's included in your draft ordinance that I mentioned in the staff report, which we talked about last year, was whether or not ADUs, accessory dwelling units, would be prohibited from being used as short-term rental. As it stands right now, the state still hasn't stated that cities can't allow them to be used in that manner. There are some incentives to cities if they choose to restrict them, but there's no obligation at this point to prohibit them from being used as short-term rentals. And so in your ordinance on page 8, and I believe this is attachment A I'm referring to, you'll see the wording about prohibiting them from being used for less than 30 days, but you'll also see that the wording is struck through. So that means that staff has deleted it because there was no legislation that we found that allows for the city to include that prohibition. So unless I can amend the ordinance. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have about the key changes that I highlighted in the staff report.
Anybody on the council that has a question? Hearing none, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing at 7:01. Anybody in the public that would like to comment? Not seeing any raised hands, I will go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:01. Any more discussion from council on questions? If I have a question on this, one of the things that we talked about, I don't know if it was maybe at the planning commission meeting, but about the city coming up with some pre-approved designs for ADUs. I believe looked into any of that.
You mean you're talking about plans, right? That could
Yeah.
be essentially copied by somebody. Yeah, that's something, I do know some cities, I believe city of Santa Cruz and maybe other cities in that area have that available. And I just simply need to get a hold of them and see what they have and then bring it back through the process.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll take that. We are gonna do that through our SB2 grant process, where we will actually go out, have some pre-approved designs and some architectural aspects to it as far as maybe exterior facade, those types of things. But that will all be done as part of our SB2 project, which for an ADU, they would just need to approve site plan on the project, but look for that in our SB2.
Great, thank you. Any more questions from the council? It seems like this is something we don't have a lot of leeway on since the state has already approved this and telling us that we have to do it, sounds like.
It's pretty much just that one issue about short-term rentals. That was the only thing that the state has left that up to the cities to decide.
Okay, thank you, Dave. If there's no more questions, question?
I would just add that somewhere in that packet, now I didn't mark where I read it, but somewhere in that packet, it says that it can't be the ADUs can't be counted as your, in your total housing element. So it wouldn't matter, it would not help us to restrict rentals like Airbnb.
Yeah, I do know, council member, that you list them in your annual report separately now, but I don't know, you're right, I don't think the state necessarily counts them towards our arena numbers.
Correct.
Great, thank you. Councilmember New.
I was under the impression that, the ADUs were used to, were accountable for the, housing element and the arena numbers. So I think we need to check that, but I believe that's.
Yeah, I honestly don't, I don't know if that changed or not. I do know it's listed separately because when I was working with Dan on completing the annual report, I noticed that they're separated out now and they're not looped together with any other type of housing.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, you know, from the staff perspective, we'll pick that back up and find out. I'll send a note to the folks at SACOG tomorrow and see if I can't get a answer, and they'll be able to tell me right off. So I'll find out and we'll report back on it.
Okay, any other questions from the council? Okay, hearing none, I will open it up for a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None, passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, which is urgency order 2020-02, ordinance of the city council and the city of Winter's temporary suspending the TOT tax.
Mayor and Council, I'll turn this over to Shelley or the city attorney, but one of the things I'd like to point out, this will require a 4/5 vote. It's an urgency ordinance, so as you move through this, just know that we need at least 40 yes votes for this thing to move forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to either Shelley or Ethan if they want to give a brief overview on this item.
John, maybe I'll give a brief overview and then Shelley can chime in on some of the financial implications if the council has questions. Mayor and Council, this is really just a follow-up on some of what John was talking about at the last council meeting where we were talking about some of the measures that this group is trying to take to alleviate some of the burden on businesses that have occurred as a result of the coronavirus crisis. And so one of these is to essentially suspend the payment of transient occupancy tax, which is the hotel tax that's paid by local hotels until after the crisis is over. They essentially have no one coming in right now. We want them to be able to sustain themselves during this crisis, and this will allow them to have some money that they need for cash flow issues during that time. Essentially, how it would work is that we would suspend payment of transient occupancy tax until the quarter after the emergency is lifted by Yolo County. So essentially, if the emergency order is lifted at the end of May, then they would pay at the end of the July to September 2020 fiscal quarter. So that would give them some time essentially to recover and be able to start to pay us back. As John noted, this is an urgency ordinance, which we need in this instance, so that it will take effect immediately. With ordinances, typically there's an introduction, a first reading, and it doesn't take place for 30 days. Given the immediate nature of the crisis, we want this to take effect now so that hotels understand that they have the benefit of this, and any urgency ordinances have to be passed by a 4/5 vote of the council. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Shelley can speak to the financial implications to the city if you have any questions on that point.
Okay, questions from council? I have a question, so I think I'm clear on it, but I just so you could make sure everybody else is as well. This applies to vacation rentals as well as the hotel and the outing house, is that correct?
Yes.
And just so the public knows, they never have to pay it again. This is just delaying it until they have some time. Once things get back to normal, they get open back up and back on their feet. Back in business.
And Mayor, just to clarify one point on that, while it applies to vacation rentals, they would get the benefit of kind of the delay in payment. It doesn't mean they can't pay during that time. So it may be the case, they do, like you say, we're not relieving anyone's obligation here. They still have to pay the taxes. So vacation rentals who aren't in the same situation as, say, the larger hotels, may be of a mind that it's easier just to pay now, so.
And they also will still be required to report them, but not pay them later. Correct?
That's correct.
Other questions from council? Councilmember Warren, questions?
Well, first, I just wanted to say thank you to the city of Winters and to the rest of the council for working together to come up with a way to relieve the hotel and Abbey House Inn. And I did not know that it applied to other Airbnb types, but I'm glad it does. I was just wondering while Ethan was there, if maybe after this vote, you could speak to some of the discussions we had about rent and other emergency ordinances. Thank you.
Other comments? Questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to? No? Val, did you have a comment? Okay. No more comments? No more questions? We'll open it up for a motion. Councilmember New, you're muted. Hold on just a second. John, can you unmute? Carol, please. You can't hear.
Yeah, you know, I think maybe Councilmember New may have muted himself.
Okay, is there someone else who would like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve this emergency
I want to,
ordinance.
before I call for a second, I want to make sure Pierre didn't have a question.
Yeah, you know what, I don't know why I can't unmute him.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Cowan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Pierre had his hand up. Thank you. All opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. So Ethan, can you come on the other items that you did not?
Sure. So we talked about some of the other issues that are going on that different communities have been trying to help with during this whole crisis are evictions. Primarily, people have been concerned about residential evictions, people getting evicted from their home and not having a place to live essentially during the shelter-in-place order and being forced to move when they're not even supposed to be outside, and that presenting some real problems. And so we had planned to take forward a residential eviction order that would protect the citizens of Winters against that. But when the governor came out with his order suspending evictions statewide, we decided that wasn't really necessary at this point because people had protections in place while the order remains in place. And so there is some protection while it, will be very difficult for people who are out of job and everything. Once this is lifted, they're at least protected while the emergency order is in place from the governor. The other issue that we discussed briefly was a question of commercial evictions and whether or not we needed to do something for our businesses to deal with evictions. Some communities are looking at that as well. What I told Councilmember Lauren is that while I recognize that is an issue, and obviously businesses are concerned about the potential ramifications, I tend to think at this point, landlords are also concerned about the ramifications, and they don't want to have vacant properties. And so I think it's likely that a lot of landlords and tenants are going to try and work something out coming out of this to try and come to some mutual resolution, so that when the shelter-in-place order is lifted, the landlords will have good tenants still in place, and the tenants have some ability to get back on their feet, not have to pay a large backlog of rent. So I suggested taking more of a wait and see approach on that, and emphasize to the city manager and Councilmember Lauren, it's worth probably raising this with our businesses, because they know what's going on much better than I do. So if they have a concern and they think something like that is necessary, then maybe we can bring it forward in the future. But it's really thought it made the most sense to look to their needs and what they think they need in this crisis to best help them through it, rather than try to come up with our own solutions without their input. So that's what we had discussed previously.
Thank you, Ethan.
Pleasure.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to the next discussion item, which is another urgency ordinance, temporarily suspend section 13.0, which is the city municipal code concerning delinquent water and sewer bills.
Mayor, I'll take this one as well. This is another urgency ordinance, and in the same vein, it's intended to try and alleviate some stress and some potential financial pain for people who are struggling with their finances during this crisis. One thing that some cities are doing is protecting against evictions. Another thing that we can do is make sure that they, even if they have an inability to pay right now, that everyone has functioning utility service. The city manager noted at the last meeting, we as a city have no intention of shutting off anyone's utilities during this crisis. We want people to be able to stay in their homes and be safe and sanitary and all that. But the way that our ordinance reads is that if you get past a certain period of time, it directs that utilities be shut off. And so what this does is this suspends us taking kind of enforcement measures to enforce non-payment of utility bills until the crisis, the emergency order is lifted, and then allow people an additional 3 months past that period of time before we would start taking enforcement measures. So the one caveat to that is that one of the ways that we collect on our utility bills when people fail to pay is that we put a lien on the tax rolls so that we can collect them through the property tax process, and that would have to occur in August. And so Shelley was concerned if we essentially delayed enforcement until after that period of time, there would be an issue where if people were delinquent in the bills, we wouldn't be able to put in on the tax liens for a full another 12 months, which means that before taking that measure, which is the one that we usually use to collect, someone could get, potentially a year and a half behind in their bills. So we would still take that measure, but that doesn't mean we won't work with people to, if they're having issues, to work out a payment plan or something like that. Shelley's done that on a regular basis in the past. She can speak to that more than I can. But this is really to alleviate some stress, but still give us the ability to collect once the emergency order is lifted. So with that, again, I'm happy to take any questions. This is also an urgency ordinance, so it has to pass by a 4/5 vote and it would take effect immediately.
Thank you, Ethan. Sorry, any comments or questions from the council? No. Okay, no questions, comments, public that would like to comment on this? No? Okay, in my opinion, I think this is one of the least of which we can do to our residents to make sure that we have their water and sewer and we're not shutting anybody's off. Giving them time to make payments as they can. I think it's something important for our citizens. So with that, I will open it up for a motion.
I move council's recommendation.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Tracy, I'm gonna ask you if you could do a roll call vote for us, please, so we can make sure that we have it. That might be clear.
Sure. Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan,
Yes.
Mayor Bianci.
Yes,
Thank you.
the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to the next discussion item, which is succession planning update, technology initiatives.
Mayor and Council, that'll be my item. Just real quick, the council's aware that we've been working on a lot of succession planning. Just last week, we had the retirements of both Dan McGuire and Carol Sienna, and kind of a perspective is that we had over 30 years of institutional knowledge walk out of City Hall on those days. So our ability to go through and try and harness our knowledge, retain a lot of information and allow for a very adequate succession of how work is done is absolutely critical. What I'd like to do is maybe just review basically the 6 main things that we've been looking at, and we'll talk a little bit from a technological standpoint tonight. Really, there are 6 main things. First is the idea that we're moving a lot of our programs into established systems. And what I mean by that is that it's something that is replicated on somebody's shelf and that other people are knowledgeable about. And when it comes to technology, that means various systems that come off the shelf. Second, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to transfer our internal knowledge into open access tools. Third, the idea that we're going to have training and transferability of key information. And what I mean by that is the ability that nobody necessarily has all of the formulas and the information in their brains when they walk out of here. We want to eliminate redundancy, and I'll mention that as we get into our human resources and payroll system. We're going to standardize our overall systems, and we're moving into the cloud. Really important. This org chart kind of hits on the major departments of the city. The one person I'm going to pick on just a little bit is Shelley Gumby, our Director of Financial Management. Around here, we always use the adage, and this comes from Shelley herself. What if Shelley was to get hit by a bus? And how would various systems continue? In finance administration, we're looking at 2 key things that we're doing. First is we're going to be moving our budgeting and financial management systems into something called OpenGov. It's basically a shelf system that does budgeting and financial management. Right now, the city's budget is put together extremely well by Shelley. Her overall preparation of the budget has won 18 consecutive awards for excellence in how she does it. But a lot of the mechanics for how it's done is just good old fashioned spreadsheets and how Shelley knows how to do it. OpenGov will be the assimilation of a lot of that information into a key budget document. NeoGov, both our human resources and our payroll. When Nancy Mills walked out of here, she took over 30 years of how the human resources of the city of Winters was done. NeoGov allows for us to standardize both our payroll and our HR systems into one system. Planning and building, the council's already aware, we have our InterGov online permitting system that's going in. We expect that should probably roll out in the fall sometime. Some of these things take a lot longer than we want. Public Works, iWorks is an overall management system that includes everything from our parks, our facilities, our equipment, water, sewer, our utilities, everything goes into it. iWorks is basically an overall management system. We've already got it implemented and it's working. We've done quite a few upgrades with our SCADA system. Now with SCADA, one of the things that we're doing, the council will remember that we bought a patch that basically bought us about 4 years of time, but our SCADA system is going to move up into the cloud. One of the things about cloud technology and the way the software works, if everybody can remember when you used to buy a computer program, you used to load it into your computer. That's not necessarily the way that these things work anymore. Basically, you buy into a system that's hosted in the cloud, all the software and everything is basically through online applications. And then finally, a lot of our best management practices and standardization. When you add it up, we have 4 members of our maintenance staff. Honestly, if you added up the experience of all of our maintenance staff, we've got over 100 years of institutional knowledge with our staff. The idea that we can take our best management practices, a lot of the ways that we do things, and a lot of that is going into the iWorks system. In public safety, we've got our records management systems, both for police and fire. That's everything from all of our calls, all of our record keeping, all of our radio traffic, everything goes into the RMS. The in-time scheduling software is a overall scheduling system. We're going from where we have one of our officers or one of our sergeants in charge of the scheduling. We're actually now moving it into an overall software system that will not only increase efficiency, but it will also include retention. In the city clerk function, right now, everything's done manually as far as our system goes. Essentially, we put together the agenda, the information is scanned in. Granicus is a software system that we're looking at that is entirely meeting management. It would accrue to both our planning commission and our city council. Puts everything online, puts all the documents in one place, but most importantly, what it does is it perpetuates that information. Always there, nobody has to find it. And then finally, in the general category, we are evolving into what they call Microsoft Teams. We are PC-based in how we operate our systems with Microsoft. It has a product called Microsoft 365, which includes all the major programs, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Outlook, also Microsoft Teams. But what the Teams software does, it allows for complete integration, sharing of documents, and again, moving into the cloud. And then finally, the last couple of things, both our document and our records management system, the idea of integrating our overall systems is going to help us to retain information in an organized format, which not only will aid generations down the road, but also helps increase our overall transparency on things. So with that, I just kind of come back to the council, real short update, but pretty important step. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? I just have one comment, and I think I brought it up when I met with you, John, about how, I know we're going to do all these things based on our computers. That puts an added cost on all the software services, cloud services. I think it might balance everything out. We can save money in the long run by having it on the computers and paying those for the software by some of our people make up to free up some of their time.
Yeah, and Mayor, you're absolutely right. Is it added cost? It is, but at the same time, each one of these software programs is very functional from an efficiency standpoint. It will be dramatic. So it's really the combination of the increased efficiency, the tools. A lot of these software systems, both the OpenGov and the NeoGov, which are doing the budgeting, financial management, and the human resources stuff, they actually go in and they prepare a lot of the state mandated reports and those types of things. So there's a lot of value that you get out of these things. And so it really is a balance. You get value, you get efficiency, but a lot of that comes with a cost. So that's the balance.
Well, another question, did you put Dan and Carol both up there in that cloud before they retired?
Yeah, actually, we are keeping them in a secret location, and eventually we will release them. So we've actually quarantined Carol to her house, so she can't leave. And in all honesty, Dan hasn't left. Dan hasn't left 100%. I think Julie probably kicked him out of the house when he came here to work. So. But no, we get that, and the benefit that we know where both of them live, so it's easy to get the information.
Okay, thank you for that update. Appreciate it. Council?
I have a question. John, can you speak to internet security as we move toward cloud-based record keeping and information and services? Are we also balancing that with security?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. There's kind of a balance in some of the things that we do don't require necessarily that everything locked down. Literally everything that we have is open for public review. We aren't worried about things getting out. But when it comes to overall security, probably one of the biggest things that we did was we actually here at City Hall have some upgraded broadband that comes in by going into the cloud. One of the biggest hesitations we've had is having our own server-based systems because they are very open to internet security issues. So we really hope that moving into some of the cloud-based systems will help in the overall security of what we have and what we do. The biggest problem that you can have is having a server-based system that gets hacked and somebody comes in and destroys all your information. We have for, I believe it's the last 3 or 4 years, been moving most of our data storage up into the cloud where we know it's a little bit more secure. But you've actually hit on a really key point, which is most of these systems are much more secure than what we have right now. So it's just a progression. And they're, quite honestly, they're as secure as those providers make them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Anybody in the public comment on these? Yes. Kate Lupton, your hand up. Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you, Mayor. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And just a quick question. Well, first, thank you for preserving the knowledge as we go forward and and allowing for that to be captured as much as possible. The quick question is, how does moving to cloud-based computing, how does that impact city functioning during public safety power shut-off or any other time that we don't have access to power? Something where you might be able to power your individual machine with backup battery, but not be able to connect to servers, something like that.
Again, really good point. I can tell you that, do we need power? We do need power. Now, the good news is that for the public safety facility and hopefully for City Hall here, we will get backup generation. The good news is that the public safety facility, as long as we have fuel, we have power out there. And without giving too much up, I can tell you that we do have excellent broadband that goes into our facilities, that it will help support access into all of it. But you've hit on the most important thing, power. And if quite honestly, the redundancy of some of our systems allow us to operate. But if, let's say that we just lost power, you know what, we're just gonna have to work without power. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah, I think Tina Loudon has her hand up as well, if you could unmute her. Go ahead, Tina.
Thank you. Tina Loudon, 320 Neiman Street. I was looking at the diagram and I was wondering, John, or anybody else, how do we eliminate the conflict that we had last month with the community center schedule and the maintenance schedule? That was a big deal, although, because of the COVID-19, we had to cancel the luncheon, but I can imagine if we didn't cancel, what a mess that would have been.
I think we've got that dialed in. I don't think there was as big of an issue, but I think we have that dialed in. That's just that was something that came up.
Yes, it was. Thank you, John.
Yeah, maybe we can look into whether the public works part of the software and like coordinating that with scheduling and some of our other facilities. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else have public comments on this? Other council comments? Okay. We move on to the next one, which is a very big item, which is economic and fiscal impacts from the COVID-19 current.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Shelley. So there are some very dramatic effects for absolutely everybody out there. And this will be a recurring item just to give the council an idea of where we're at. But the fiscal and economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic are starting to really come to hit us. Not only, probably the most important thing out there are the number of people that have lost their jobs, lost their livelihood coming in. For the city, we are already seeing the impacts of that as we look to go into our budget. Basically, we're in the fourth quarter of this fiscal year, and this is also a pretty hot time for us. As we roll into spring, we live into a beautiful area, we're a destination, and as we get into this time of the year, it's some of the best time where we do earn money to help support all the services that we provide. With that, we're looking at a number of things. First, impacts on sales tax, the hotels closed, transient occupancy tax, but also there's a lot of actions that have been done or executive orders from the governor and from the state, which are impacting us. So why don't I turn it over to Shelley, and Shelley, I'll put your slide up, and why don't you talk about it a little bit?
Okay, so, some of the effects of the COVID-19 on cash flow is that the state has decided that they are going to, I don't know what happened, I lost my view. The state has decided that they're going to, give people that owe more than $50,000, they're gonna allow them in sales tax, they're gonna allow them a year to pay that. They're basically gonna give them a 1-year loan. And if they owe $50,000, they can take a holiday, they can take a loan, they don't have to pay it. And they wouldn't start paying it back until August of 2020, and it would go through July of 2021. Then the other issue that they've done is they're allowing everyone to not pay their sales tax from January through March until July of 2020. So we're seeing 2 executive orders. I walked through this with HDL, which is our sales tax consultant today. My numbers may be a little bit high, but I wanted to kind of give you a worst case scenario on this. So it looks like cash flow wise that there's a total of about $225,000 that we will not get until after June of 2020 that we normally would have gotten in April, May, and June. So we're looking at a $225,000 reduction in cash flow into the city that we normally would be getting. We should receive this with the caveat of we don't know exactly what's happening with all the individual businesses. We know some of the restaurants are doing carry out only. There may be some businesses that don't recover and don't open back up. So these numbers could be a little bit higher, but I'm supposed to be getting within the next 36 hours a more detailed report from HDL on what they think the impacts are. We kind of walked through what we thought the worst case scenario would be. The idea is the sales tax, the $69,963, we would get that paid back 1/12 each month from August 2020 to July 2021. So all of that $70,000 is going to be moved into the next fiscal year. Then when we talk about the TOT tax, we estimate that we're going to lose about $45,000, 100%, because the hotels are closed. They're not open at all. So about $45,000 is just going to be gone out of our budget. And then we've got $15,000 that you just agreed to allow the hotels and the Airbnb type things to delay their payment on. So that's another $60,000 in cash flows that most likely will not be seen at all before the end of June, which is the end of our fiscal year. So in total, we're looking at a total reduction in cash flow of about $285,000 between the March 19th declaration and the end of June. We are hoping that businesses will be able to open back up May 1st, May 15th, May 30th, somewhere in that time frame, and we'll be able to get people back online. And then what we'll have to determine is who's not able to recover from this. I think there may be some businesses that truly will not be able to continue operations after this is all done. And so I'll be working with HDL to determine what we think is going on with that. Gas prices are down, so that may further impact the sales tax. So we're just kind of, he told me he thought I was being a little bit high on the $225,000 estimate. I'm not sure because gas prices are down considerably. So these are the 2 most vulnerable revenue sources that we have. I think our property tax, our BLF in lieu, all of those things are pretty solid because those were already assessed back in January of 2019 and again in January of 2020. I know there's still people buying the houses out in the subdivision. I've taken at least 3 calls in the last 3 days for people still purchasing those homes. It's going to depend on how the economy recovers, what impact that we might have on the property tax. But I really think that this $285,000 cash flow reduction is realistically what we're going to see and what we're going to be working with through the end of June.
And you know what, why don't I kind of pick up on a couple of things. So Shelley talks about 285,000 in overall cash flow. 60,000 of that is just gone from the transient occupancy tax. I just did some really rough numbers, but for the downtown, one of the biggest concerns is that we are going to see a dramatic reduction in the amount of sales tax that we get. The businesses are all closed. Do we need the Bakuan and the cafe and the Chinese restaurant and everybody to be working? We do. We absolutely do. And we will probably see just in an absolute reduction of sales tax from them, probably somewhere in the ballpark of probably $30,000 to $40,000 that we are going to lose in this, what is the second quarter of 2020. So about, let's just roughly say about 35,000 that we are going to lose from the downtown alone. From the freeway, Shelley points out the reduction in gas prices. We've seen almost a 25% reduction in fuel costs that are going out there. You combine that with the fact that people are not traveling, people are not going to work to fuel their vehicles. So in total on that, kind of estimating an additional reduction, probably somewhere in the ballpark of 20 to 30,000. So if you take the 285,000, add about 70,000 that we are going to see in outright loss from our sales tax. We're bouncing around right now about 350,000, which is very serious money for us. So I can tell you that from an internal standpoint, we are making some very pointed decisions on hiring, and we are going to talk with our employee groups about all of this to just get everybody on the same page. But pretty serious times as far as all this goes. Shelley mentions the impacts on our businesses. There are some businesses that may not make it back. And is that going to be serious? It's going to be very serious. If you walk through downtown right now, we know of at least 6 storefronts that are going to be going empty. And if you can expect after all this is done, that there's some recessionary influences that hit. The idea of empty storefronts in our downtown is not good. And being a destination location, the one thing that we do know is that we need the synergy of all the businesses working and firing on all cylinders. And the way that you have that is you have to have storefronts that are filled. So we're keeping an eye on absolutely all of this, but why don't I just turn it over to the council, any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Shelley and John. Questions from the council? Comments? Anybody? Yes, Councilmember Lauren.
First of all, I want to acknowledge that public safety and public health are our number one goals, and that's something that we hold dear is keeping people safe. there's a way to work with some businesses that have decided to remain open and to do takeout, to do, maybe make a plan to have a way that we can advertise that we are open for business, and to see if we can get like a succession of places that are all open at the same time for people to drive through and do pickup with social distancing, masks, cleaning, and following all the health protocols, so that people that want our great food and our great services can come and get it, and we can at least offer that. So in a way, making it something that's more homogenized or something that is more collaborative might allow us to kind of keep those businesses alive. I'd love to take that conversation offline with the city manager and maybe some of the local businesses.
Thank you. Other comments? I'd like to say a few things, and I know this will have a huge impact on our city budget, and I know we're getting ready to, come forward with some budget information in our near-term future, and this is gonna make it even harder for Kelly to put that budget together, but it's something that we're gonna have to deal with. Some sacrifices are gonna have to be made somewhere, and to look at that. Best we can.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to just comment that we have a global problem on our hands. And there's no easy answers to any of these things. But we can't lose sight of the health side of the equation either. That's all I have to say. That's all.
100%. Councilmember Long.
I just have one other thing. As we consider the gravity of what's going on with the global pandemic and protecting, our resources and planning for our future, and having health as being, our number one priority, are we addressing the health and safety of our officers and of our fire department and our employees? And I think keeping everyone healthy is also should be part of our budget. Keeping them safe and keeping them able to work and not get sick is kind of part of long-term planning also. So I'd like to know, what we're doing to address that.
Captain Lopez, I see you joining us on our meeting. Can you give us a little information on that? If we can get you unmuted. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for asking those questions. And yes, we're in some very uncharted territory. The fire department is taking this very seriously. There are some concerns with potential exposures within our community, and so our priority is to make sure that our firefighters, our public safety professionals are safe. Some of the operational changes that we've made is how we respond to emergencies and providing our personnel with the appropriate PPE. And that's coming down with guidance from the CDC, which is really not anything different than we do normally and outside of COVID-19. But now we're just paying more attention to utilizing PPE and maintaining the social distancing. So we are prepared. We're responding to calls. We're still available for services.
Thank you. Here, sir. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
One of the things I want to just bring up again was, it might be for John or Shelley or both, is are we seeing any possibility of us getting a piece of any of these programs that the state and the federal government is talking about to help with the cities, and can that help offset some of the losses we're going to incur?
No, I'll take a crack. I can tell you we're monitoring everything. Right now, Quite honestly, there's not a lot of relief that's coming down for cities per se. In our case, you know, we are losing revenue, not from these huge increased expenditures that we have. You know, a lot of things they'll say, well, we'll give you resources to help in responding to this whole thing. We are having bottom line losses that are just coming out. This is revenue that just isn't going to come in. And, you know, for us, you know, we're scraping towards 400,000 that this is hitting. But if you go to any of the other cities, they're talking in the millions of dollars that they're about ready to lose. So, you know, the zap on the overall economy is going to be significant. Are we going to keep, you know, looking after everything? Absolutely, we are. But I don't see the state or anybody coming in to backfill. I think, and most certainly, the focus on small businesses and people that are out of work right now, that needs to be the focus, no question. And I think that's where the money's going to go. I think from the city standpoint, you know, I would love to say there's some manna from heaven that's going to fall on us, but I'm not betting on that.
So, I did sit in on the, League of California, the National League of Cities last week. And there's some programs that could possibly be helpful, but, they're very targeted programs. And I'm following up on a few that I think would apply to the city of Winters. I've reached out to the person that gave the presentation last Tuesday, and I'm trying to dig in. One of the areas is some money for PPE for public safety, which we may need to replace some of our PPE for public safety, so I'm trying to look into that. And there was some information about non-entitlement cities getting additional CDBG money. And I'm trying to follow up and get with someone to give me more explanation on what those possibly could be.
And Mayor and Council, just to put it right there, we're a small jurisdiction. Most things are given out on a per capita basis. And honestly, we are the last ones that are allowed to the trough on anything. As we compete against larger jurisdictions, some of the things that have come out start at 500,000 people as far as the cutoff. Everything else is fighting for it. You know, as a small city, we get whatever we can generate on our own. That's just the way that life is. We see that every single day, whether it's our SB1 funding or any of the other subventions we get. It's why we don't get what everybody else has. You know, when they start posting allocations on road monies and all those types of things, sure, you see Davis, Woodland, West Sac, all of them, they get millions of dollars, and we get a couple of crumbs that fall off the side of the table towards us. It's that when all of this comes down, it most likely is going to be the same. When you look at federal allocations, when you look at the state allocations, we're going to have to fight and scrap for whatever we get. So we will pay attention to it, but the reality is we're a small city and we're the least priority for most of what they're going to do. That's just the reality.
So I know one of the other impacts that will be huge on us will be the CalPERS, because the economy, you know, going down so much, and Councilmember Lauren and myself, and I'm not sure if anyone else is, but we're gonna be sitting in on a webinar tomorrow with the League of California Cities on the preparedness and resiliency, you know, COVID-19 on CalPERS later on down the line.
I too am sitting in on that webinar tomorrow, so I've got it on my calendar.
I'm also going to send it on it. It's a big deal, probably one of the biggest deals.
comments? Councilmember Lauren,
Got it.
I was on the same call that Shelley was on with the National League of Cities, and it was a bit discouraging to hear that, you know, cities, 500,000 population or larger were the ones that were gonna be able to have access to that money. But I did attend, I was part of a League of Cities meeting that followed that, not the National League, and between those, I might be combining them. I'm starting to feel like I'm living on Zoom, but was that the League of California Cities is working with the governor's office to develop a portal for smaller cities. But again, all the bigger cities get the money first, and then we come in after that. We were also told that the House is working on for stimulus that would get money for cities, that cities were excluded from the CARES Act mainly, but the next one would try to help cities. Now, does that help us now? No, but it might help us in the future. And so I'd like to just watch that. I'm not sure if anybody else will be on the next presentation, but I'll try to give a shout out to Shelley and see if she's available when those league presentations take place that talk about the money.
Yeah, on the CARE Act, they were mostly talking about the fact that they've given the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act 12 weeks, and they've given the emergency sick leave of 80 hours. Private employers are able to take a holiday from paying the Social Security taxes on those items. But governments were specifically excluded. They didn't tell us exactly why, but they did tell us that governments were specifically excluded from having the ability to take that tax holiday. Of course, that only applies if you have someone take advantage of either one of those two leaves. And we are fortunate right now that we don't have anybody that needs to take those leaves, because that means we're all healthy and our families are healthy. So I feel blessed that we're not having to worry about people being on those leaves.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, as Councilmember Lauren pointed out, on the national level, small cities start below 500,000. In California, small cities start below 100,000. Vacaville is considered a small city compared, and we just kind of fall within the pecking order of where all that goes. So that's the thing that's really difficult is as we, where we prioritize on various things, and it also gets into overall competitiveness. So we need to keep our eye out on all this stuff. And quite frankly, I think we're lucky that we have really good representation at the state level that I know is looking out for us also. So as this stuff starts to roll, we're going to have to get super busy to get whatever we can from the table.
Other comments? Anyone in the public that would like to comment? Okay, being none, we'll move on to our last discussion item for the evening, which is sidewalk saw cutting repair and replacement project.
All right, I'm trying to unmute Eric.
It's something that's near and dear. I think all these council members have expressed desire to have this project move forward. I'm glad to see this on our agenda tonight. Hi, Eric.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, good evening, Mayor, council members. This evening, staff's bringing before council the sidewalk repair replacement project, which is basically two projects with the same goal, making our sidewalks safe. And basically, it's two because it's two different ways of fixing the sidewalk. In the previous years, the staff is always out working on sidewalks, doing the repairs that we do, replacing sidewalk as much as we can. And then kind of towards the end of the year, we have, we budget $15,000 basically for repair, replace sidewalks, efficiencies, ADA ramps, curb gutters, ADA ramps we gotta get back on, we're falling behind. But anyway, when we kind of get towards the end, we'll use an outside contractor to come in and do a saw cutting, which you'll see around town. It's kind of unique because if you go to other cities, you'll see a lot of grinding they do. It's really rough, kind of looks ugly. This one here, it's a little bit smoother. They use a newer technology. It's more of a, like cut rocks, it's smooth. And they actually make it ADA compliant. So that's why we go with this contractor that we normally use. So this year we kind of upped that to $9,500. And then just recently, our finance director, Shelley, just came to me and said, hey, we have some more TDA money. And so that's going to go towards our street rehab project. But there was enough there that it almost tripled our budget and what we've been using repairing our streets. So at the request of the city manager, he's like, hey, why don't we take some of this funding and push it towards sidewalk repair and try to just kind of attack this thing and get something good out of it. So great idea. I didn't think of it because I wasn't sure I could use the TDA funding for that. But as long as Shelley says I can, then I can. So that's what we did. So so what it also is going to allow us to do is help out local contractors that are struggling right now as well. So one, the replacement is going to be, we have to pay, somebody prevailing wage because that's just what we have to do as a city. But they're going to be coming in and knocking out quite a few different locations around town. And hopefully that will start next week. That's the plan. And then the other group will come out at the end of this week, next week, and they actually do a survey. And they bring that survey to me and say, hey, we have this many deficiencies with, say, an inch and above of a lift on a sidewalk problem. And then we kind of go through that, and you can kind of lay out a budget that way with the $9,500 that we have. And we can figure out exactly how many we're going to get done. Typically, between what we do and doing the saw cutting, we do about 75 to 100 each year. We're hoping that we're going to be a little closer to 200 this year. So we kind of up the saw cutting, and then with the addition of this, the TDA funds, like I said, it's gonna do a lot of good. The safety aspect, obviously the replacement, it's aesthetically it's gonna be a lot better, pleasing to the eye because it's gonna be new sidewalks, and you're gonna see a big difference. And hopefully this is something that we might be able to do next year as well. So that's what this is about, and I'd like to get it going as soon as possible. Like I said, I'm looking at starting this next week if we can.
Okay. Questions from council?
It's just good news to hear.
Yeah, I think it's great to see this happening. One question I had, some of the places where there's existing curb cuts that the asphalt has raised up from the street and creates a bump right there and come down a curb cut. Are those something that we could look at getting the asphalt ground down so there's not that bump so it's not what is going down there?
So yeah, on this, where the street kind of comes up to the curb and it creates a lip there. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how. We can just kind of cut it out and redo it. But I know what you're talking about. Some of them will get knocked out because some of those are in some of the gutter areas that are going to be replaced, and we'll just cut that out a little bit further and eliminate that trip hazard there. So to answer your question, yes, I'll have to be more cognitive to making sure I'm looking at for that and not just looking at the sidewalks, but that's the plan. And then on top of this, to try to push our dollar a little bit further, what I want to do is work out with local contractor that if obviously most of these are root problems, Main Street, Russell, 3rd Street, it's horrible locations. We've saw cut them actually a couple times already. And so we're going to have to notify the homeowner up front, hey, we're going to have to cut these tree roots. We do it all the time, and we've yet to kill a tree by doing that. But so what we're going to do is have them do the work, get ready to form it up, And then we'll have our guys come in and kind of take some of the expense out by us cutting the roof out. And then they can just focus on framing up and pouring concrete and hopefully get a little bit more out of that with a little bit of our help. So that's the plan.
So another question, does the city have any kind of policy in place about, like, if a homeowner has a sidewalk along their property that's bad as far as sharing costs with if a homeowner wanted to do that to get some sidewalk replaced?
We've done it, and we're looking at doing it because there's actually somebody on Main, and they're right behind them on Abbey Street that came to us and said, hey, we have, sidewalk. Does the city replace it? And it was, we do, but, we've got a long list of sidewalks, so it's kind of like, it's not necessarily in seniority, it's more priority. And as soon as, it was no more than 2 weeks, both of them start doing it themselves. And then we came up with this, and it's like, oh man, this is gonna look horrible, because we just told them no, they went and spent some money. So we're looking at seeing if we can work it out to where there's a kind of a cost share. Maybe we pay the cost of the concrete on the sidewalk area, not where they did their personal driveway or something, but, so we'll definitely hit the ones that have just done that. And then, in the past, we have kind of tried to work things out where if somebody wants to do something, then, for us, it's not always the $15,000 going through that. It's just time to get our guys out there. It's going to take 2 or 3 guys a couple days, and then that just means something else doesn't get done in those days. So this is I think a really good thing for us to get out and do. Plus, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that aren't working right now, and it's not because they can't. It's because of the jobs they have are being shut down. So it's going to allow us to help out some local contractors as well.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I know we get more bang for the buck out of our people doing it, but like you say, we've only got so much time in getting these extra funds and getting a bunch of things taken care of will be a big help.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that we do concentrate on the core area of town, the old part of town that's got the worst sidewalks, and especially our downtown area where we get a lot of out-of-town people coming. And that's for residents, as well as residential areas. Some of the older parts of town have the worst sidewalks.
Yeah, and they're really bad because some of them, I think, concrete was free. They got it from the dam and they just poured it 12 inches thick. Other places, it's like 1.5 inches thick and it's made of sand, so it just crumbles. So it just determines where they are, what kind of trees are there. And so we're going to do the best we can. And like I said, we already know that we have funding for next year. It's just a matter of, we can see how far this goes. And like I said, I would really like to just do this again and take care of as much as we can while we have the funding. At least I'm talking about having funding, and everyone else is on a downer. So.
Thanks for the good news.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Lauren, you have a question? I see your hand up, though. We have to unmute you first. Okay, go ahead.
I have more of a comment than a question. First, I want to say that I heard from many people when I was campaigning that they really wanted to have street repair. They really wanted better sidewalks. And I know, Bill, that you heard the same thing. And I think that this is the perfect time, while the streets aren't as full as they usually are, to get this work done and make for a more beautiful, safer winters. So I just want to just express my gratitude that the city is using this time so wisely and getting this work done. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, this is the city manager. It was his idea to do this, and it was a great idea. And the other thing, just to let you guys know, the street rehab project that just went out to bid today will be completed in mid-May. So you're going to see a lot of slurry seal going on and a lot of grind and pave brand new streets coming into town. So they're going to come in and kind of make a mess for a little bit, but it's only going to be a few days, and then it's going to be really nice. So we're gonna get a lot out of it, and like you said, it's good timing.
Yes, thank you to Don as well for I know all the council members expressed this as one of our top goals, to get our sidewalks and our streets in better shape. So thank you for finding the money to get this done. Thank you, Eric. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the,
Mayor, there's an action. I just need the council to move authorization, to enter a contract, for this.
okay, in that case, I'll open it up.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote. Tracy, could you do the roll call vote, please? I should have been doing that.
Yes. Oh, let's see.
Tracy?
Mayor, I think Kate Laddish is trying to say something.
Okay. Go ahead, Kate.
I just want to jump in. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street. And really quickly, thank you so much to Eric and your team. I appreciate this always. I appreciate the work you do now even more because using sidewalks is about the most amusing thing that people can do outside right now. So thank you. The work you do makes it so that people can do that and do that safely. And dovetailing with what Councilmember Lauren said about the importance of it and how people mention this, that having sidewalk repair and street repair is one of the examples given in discussions about why it's so important to complete the census, is that that's one of the ways that we get the money for it. So thank you. There's one project I'm hoping I can put on your radar. It's probably there already, but the ramp on the northwest corner of Elliott and Main is broken. So that actually when you put weight on it, the yellow plastic bows down. And
Oh, it's the plastic truncated dome is that?
yeah.
Okay. Northwest, Elliott and Main.
Yeah, right by Hoobies.
Oh, okay. All right, I will look at it in the morning.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And John, could you unmute Tracy Leslie? So we do a roll call vote?
Yeah, let's, all right, go ahead, Tracy.
Councilmember Anderson,
He's muted.
Okay, he's unmuted now. Go ahead.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan,
Yes.
and Mayor Bianchi.
Yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay,
Thank you.
next we move on to the city manager's report.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, you heard from our fire chief, Brad Lopez. I also asked Chief John Miller maybe to give an overview. Our police staff are also right on the front lines of so much of this. So I asked Chief Miller to maybe give a very short update on this. So Chief, why don't I turn it over to you? Maybe you can talk a little bit about what the PD is doing.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So first and foremost, I want to assure you, Winters PD is totally prepared for the current crisis because we do have a full case of toilet paper.
Huh.
It's a secure part of the building, 24-hour armed guard. But in all seriousness, we are fortunate. We are as well prepared as we can be. We do have a supply of N95 masks in stock. And that was lessons learned from our emergency and sustained operations with our deployment of the campfire in 2018 and Kincaid Fire in 2019. That supply may not last if wearing masks in public becomes mandatory. We have received guidance from the CDC that the masks can be reused, but obviously just with use, they'll have to be replaced. We figure we can supply about one per officer per week, and it should last us about 4 weeks, all depending on how long this goes on. We also came across a box of surgical masks that were obtained years ago. Currently, we're intending those to be utilized for subjects that we are transporting to jail or to a medical facility if they're on a mental health hold. But we may recast those for our own use. Just before supplies got critical, I was able to purchase a supply of hand sanitizer and got my hands on a 4-pack of Lysol disinfectant wipes. That's lasting us pretty well. Also, a shout out to Patio 29, who donated a half gallon of their home sanitizer to us. And we also purchased some additional supplies from them. I were in fact discussing today several different options for area disinfecting of the public safety facility, should we have an exposure to our personnel. One such device, very expensive, creates an ozone, costs $7,900. It's not feasible at this time, but Chief Lopez is working with regional fire chiefs on another product, which I'm sure that you'd be happy to discuss with you guys further. Reference our personnel issued a general order on March 24th, when it was first kicked off. It was on exposure mitigation and procedures. I just updated it and reissued today based on some GEMSA guidelines, and after discussion with Chief Lopez. General orders mandates disinfecting the workstation, patrol cars, outlines precautions in the fields, and a threat matrix for first responders, law enforcement, exposure based on preventative measures and personal protective equipment measures. The update today limits the transporting of subjects to only when it's deemed absolutely necessary and there's no other feasible alternatives. It mandated directly transporting subjects to jail or appropriate facility, not bringing them to the police department any longer for processing. Mandated masking of the subject being transported, as well as the officer utilizing their PPE or personal protection equipment, including donning their N95 mask and then disinfecting the patrol car immediately after transporting. And that's all based obviously on the newer information we're receiving, that up to 25% of people exhibit no symptoms of the virus. So abundance of precaution. Finally, mental health wise, our personnel are doing well. I'm 100% staffing. Again, sick calls non-existent. Everyone is doing a great job. I've pushed out updates and information as I've received it. We're getting a lot of information, so trying to limit overwhelming them, but also just assuring them of our level of preparation and contingency plans, as well as information on services provided by Portico, which is our employee assistance program provider, and the programs they are offering to emergency responders and their families. So overall, we are doing very well. I'm very proud of the men and women of the Winter Police Department. And assure the community that we are 100% out there and trying to be as visible as possible.
Thank you. Chief Lopez, anything to add? And then give us an update there.
Yeah, sure. And just to highlight, like Chief Miller mentioned, we are coordinating together to each of our departments. I am meeting twice a week with our city fire chiefs in Yolo County. And that, provides us an opportunity to collaborate in how we respond to these COVID cases, and also coordinate with Kristen Wyboda and through the Yolo County Medical Services Agency and her team. Since the COVID outbreak, some of the protocols and guidance has changed in how we provide patient care, and by providing additional protective measures for our firefighters and for our first responders. In light of that, like I mentioned before, we put together COVID kits, what we call them, for our firefighters, and which include a mask and gown and gloves and eye protection when responding to potential cases. One of the things that we see and we know is firefighters are being exposed to COVID. There are a number of cases in Yolo County where firefighters have contracted COVID cases. So it is very real. It is here. We do anticipate it's going to hit winters to some point in some degree. Hopefully it's going to be minimal, but we're preparing for it if it does happen. Like Chief Miller mentioned, is the ability to decon our facilities and our equipment. Should we have a positive case that comes through our agency, is being able to provide decontamination so that our facilities are safe still and we can operate properly.
Don, do you have any more to add for your city manager?
Just a couple of really quick things. Almost every day I'm on 2 different calls getting updates on various aspects of this whole pandemic, different things. things, with health, with public safety, with talking about the economic recovery, working with the city managers, whether it's the League of Cities, things that are coming down. So lots of information. I will tell you, getting off of that, today, I sent out an amendment regarding our housing element RFP. Some clarification, I've actually extended the deadline to the latter part of April for the submittal of the final proposals for us. So we're moving the timeline. I will get that to the council just as an update. Basically, and that's my update for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one last announcement I'd like to make tonight before we close the meeting. And I just want to mention that this coming Tuesday, April 14th, we have one of our local residents who's turning 100 years old.
Wow.
And the family had a party planned for her. Her name is Eleanor Kent. This is Chapman's mother. And since they're sheltering in place, they can't have the celebration they're going to have. So there's, at the end of kind of an organized parade being set up that if people want to go by, drive by her house or walk by and wave to her, wish her a happy birthday on April 14th. It's starting at 11 a.m. to 12 o'clock. If you have time to go by, then everybody needs to keep their distance from each other, as we know. But I just thought it would be a good gesture for people who are sick to go by and wish her a happy birthday. Someone's been living in Winters for a long time, turning 100 at home. So everybody could do that. The address is 415 First Street. Thank you, everyone. And maybe we could get the fire department to drive by with a fire truck and honk their horn and the siren for as well. They're not busy on call. Even if the police department as well, we'd appreciate it. So, on that note, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:27. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Hey, just one thing before I forget. So the way that I set this up is that
But we have to.
I mute everybody, then I unmute them. But what happens is that if you mute yourself, you can't unmute yourself. So if for some reason, we're gonna need to come up with a high sign or something. Because I apologize that some people were muted and we're trying to get them all undone. So pretty soon I'll be doing my own YouTube channel on Zoom meetings on how to do this stuff. But anyway, just so you know, if you mute yourself, you can't unmute yourself. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
We're all learning together. Thank you. Good job.
It's TVA funding?
Yeah, sorry. Transportation,
Something or other?
yeah. I don't.
Yeah, just a question I'll ask. Hey.
Hey there.
Helped when I went in there,
It did. I know Ethan did that the last meeting. He went in there also. I should have mentioned it a little earlier, but oh well. We made it through.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have your iPad for me?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Such as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Such as it is.
All right, slice of heaven.
Okay, Robbie.
Yeah.
See ya.
See you later.
Yeah. but I can get the new one tomorrow.
Tomorrow, he expects to have all 5 of them downloaded and finished by 5 or by tomorrow afternoon. So I'll just deliver them after, I'll leave work and deliver them once I get them in my hands.
Yeah, because I've got,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got your
okay.
BCE stuff.
I got a BCE.
What time is that?
Practice at 3, and then I've got the winter senior commission at
5:30. That's what I've got
Yeah.
too. Okay,
That's tomorrow.
okay.
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. So yeah, I'm working fairly locally right now.
Okay.
Various in Field and Pond, so maybe just after lunch or something, I'll stop by or you can text me or whatever.
Okay.
You can just text me
Oh,
and say,
okay.
hey, you can come by anytime.
Oh, okay. I'll
It's
do
just
that
that if
then.
I'm at Field and Pond, it takes a long time for them to come through if they do.
Right.
And then I drive away and all of a sudden, ding, ding, ding.
You get all these messages
Yeah,
firing up.
Stuff does not work out there at all. But anyway, well, I don't think that went too bad.
Well,
John's getting pretty good at being able to put up the
yeah.
notes and all
the-
that,
the
and
tiles.
that helps. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, you just can't have another iPad in this room for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't go well.
Yeah, it just keeps bleeding together. Anyway, my bad.
No, that's okay.
I didn't know that's what was causing all that. And John texted me, and that's when I got up and left.
Oh, was
He
that
said,
it?
I think it's all coming from your iPad. I'm like, okay.
In other words, get the heck out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll lock up behind you.
Okay. Bye, Tracy.
Bye. Thanks, Wade.